Anthony, so good to see you. Wednesday, August 3rd.
It is good to see you, Glenn Houseman.
Wow, you seem really excited. I can sense it.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey there, hi there, ho there. This is Glenn Houseman, and that, of course, is the incredible Anthony Melchiori. Anthony, so great to see you today, my friend. How are you?
You always call me incredible. What makes me incredible? I am just like everybody else, not incredible. No, everybody's incredible.
Well, particularly the Hulk. He's really incredible.
You're incredible.
Well, it's great to see you today. It's really fun getting back into the rhythm of doing these shows with you after taking that break this week. And hey, our second guest is coming on behind stage right now. But before we get started, Anthony, I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to talk about our good friends over at Radisson Hotels America. That's right. Soon they're going to be joining the Choice Hotels family, which is going to make an investment in Radisson much better than ever. Anthony, you know how much I love those brands, Radisson Blue, Radisson Red. And I'm very excited that once it kicks in, they're going to really be able to turbocharge those brands.
Yeah, I can't wait till it kicks in so we can kind of visit them and kind of see new products that are coming online.
I know. It's going to be really exciting. So do me a favor, take a minute, reach out to the team over at Radisson Hotels America. Tell them No Vacancy sent you. Consider developing those hotels. All right. So today we're going to be speaking with our friends over at Remington Hotels. But Anthony, we're mixing it up a little bit. Yeah. We love Chris Green, who's their divisional president. We love Sloan Dean, who's their CEO. But I think it's time we gave some other folks at the company an opportunity to speak.
Who says we love those people? I don't even like those people. Actually, they're my favorite people.
Dude, don't let them know the truth. Come on.
Yeah, they're absolutely fabulous, and their company that they're building is incredible.
It really is. We're going to learn a little bit more about that today, plus lots of other stuff really relevant to how you folks out there are operating experiences your business. Let's get started with Raul Moronta, Chief Commercial Officer with Remington Hotels. Raul, great to see you. I know your cohort Zach is coming. I think he's getting his camera and stuff set backstage.
Thank you.
Let's start with you, sir. I think our friend Chris Green was Chief Commercial Officer over at Chesapeake before he became CEO of Chesapeake, before you guys merged or, they absorbed Chesapeake into the Remington Hotels family. What's it like being Chief Commercial Officer of such a growing big company? It's a pretty cool gig, man.
It is. It's actually very exciting because you get to build, the structure the way you want to. I mean, I came in right in the middle of a pandemic. I actually came in December of 2020. So I had the fortune of actually trying to rebuild the organization and the sales structure. But no, actually being able to do both sales and revenue, and obviously tying that into digital into one cohesive unit is something that obviously is I was tasked to do, and that's the exciting part, not just coming into the organization, but then obviously being able to integrate the Chesapeake Hotels as well.
Yep, Anthony.
So where were you before you came to this wonderful job?
So I was working for Crescent Hotels. So I worked there for about 4 years, and prior to that, I've had most of my career had been actually with Starwood Hotels. So I had done property revenue management. I have done some corporate roles and things like that. And then I was in my last role in Starwood was actually overseeing franchise revenue management support.
Did you ever meet Rich Hodder at Crescent? You know Rich Hodder?
The same name sounds familiar.
He was a GM in New York property.
Yes. DoubleTree, Times Square West.
There you go.
Yes. Great guy.
He was. He worked for me 73 years ago.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, that's a long time ago. Hard to believe, though.
Speaking about a long time ago, I just checked the date on it. I couldn't believe it. Marriott bought Starwood in 2016. I can't believe it's been that long already. Yep. It seems like yesterday.
I remember being on the highway when I got a call from the AP for a quote. And it seemed like it was yesterday.
Right. Too funny. So Raul, we were hoping to get together while you were at the high tech event in June. It didn't work out. We were coming and going. We kind of we crossed each other's paths. Dan, I had the nerve to take off a couple of weeks ago to Hawaii, but we finally got you. We finally got you over here. I think a good place for us to start is learning a little bit about what you think about hotel technology today as it pertains to what's going on at Remington Hotels. So overall, big picture, what are you thinking about?
Well, I can tell you, believe it or not, pandemic was actually good for technology, particularly for technology adoption.
Yep.
I think that as you can imagine, at the beginning, it was all about touchless. Can we make everything touchless? Can we not have anything that a guest needs to put their hands into it? That actually revitalized the QR technology. So if you think about it, QR technology was not used. And then somehow we ended up with a matter of probably 3 months. We actually sunsetted compendiums in the guest rooms. We sunsetted a lot of menus in hotels. As a matter of fact, I know both Marriott and Hilton have been working on technology to allow for you to control, for example, your guest room TV and your temperature from your phone.
Right.
Well, right now you can go to a number of hotels and you would have a QR code right on the nightstand. You can put it on, and then you're going to basically control your TV through it. And a lot of that, I think brands in the past would have been very timid about the rollout. And then that helped us accelerate that process.
Interesting. I'm curious as to how you approach technology, because you're working with multiple companies, right? You had independent hotels. You have, like the one I'm standing not at right now, the Showboat Hotel, which I'll actually be at this weekend. We're doing a Friday night audit from there. Be sure to check that out. But you also have Hyatt's and Hilton brands and Marriott brands and IHG brands. That's pretty challenging to try to figure out a strategy going forward when you can.
Yeah, so we have to find obviously an external source to be able to harmonize the data. Right. So you need to have a let's call it a business intelligence system off the shelf, like a Profit Sage, right? Now I think they call Actable. And they allow us to basically normalize things on the back end. But at the same time, we have our own proprietary database system, and we use Power BI. We actually build everything through a platform that we call Remy. That we allows us to normalize all of the revenue streams and all of our statistics. So if you think about it, an owner, for example, is going to be investment centric. They are not going to be brand centric. Some of them are. Some of them say, you know what, I only want to have this type of brand in this type of hotel. But they invest in just an opportunity asset. So we have to find a way to normalize everything and harmonize it the same way to say, you know what, regardless whether you use Opera, whether you use on cue for Hilton or any other system, we have to be able to normalize it. What we do though is that for brands, we obviously have to use the technology that the brand provides, and they obviously have great pricing and stability and things like that. For independent hotels, then we have a standardized technology stack, and that is extremely important for us. So in the times of, for example, we transition a hotel in. We, one of our ownership groups actually buys a hotel. We try to put in one same technology stack because that allows us to be able to figure it out, how they connect to each other. We have less to worry about how we learn the systems and things like that. We try as much as possible to minimize the amount of systems that our teams are going to be using on the field.
And how important it is to have these systems work in the employee lack of employee environment that we have now. So when you're looking at these systems, how much is going into, well, we know we had 3 employees at the front desk. Now we're going to have 1. How is that being incorporated?
Yeah, so 2 things, right? So again, when we selected the system that we use, the technology stack, that was one of the most important parts of the process. How do we integrate? How do we onboard an associate? At the same time, I think we work with those companies for them to provide training for us on an ad hoc basis, right? So for example, you hire a front desk agent, they need to be able to train with another person next to them and things like that. But they're also going to have some time where we want them to learn through a video and being able to do that practice and do a training hotel and things like that. So but it's critical, particularly as you know, we have lost a significant amount of associates. Hospitality has lost a number of associates to other industries. And now we're getting a number of associates that actually are coming in and new to the industry. And they understand retail. They may understand, restaurants and bars, Starbucks, whatever the case it is. And now we need to find a way to train them. And that is something that, again, our processes are probably a little bit more complex than your regular fast food restaurant, let's call it. And it does take a little bit more time. But I think a lot of that is for us to be able to figure it out, to have a programmatic way that we onboard them into the system, we train them, and then we have some shadow, buddy system that allows us to make sure that they're doing the right things.
Right. And going back to everything before the pandemic, we were thinking about seamless, we were reacting. That has become not only important for the guests, but it's urgent because, again, the staffing issue is not going away. I was just talking to an NYU masterclass yesterday at the Marriott Marquis. We were doing a special session with them, and this question kept on coming up over and over and over again. They're on the asset side. They want to develop hotels. They want to work for the Blackstones and Tishmans of the world. But there's investors that are concerned about putting their money in these big properties, not because they're not in A locations or A plus or A minus or B plus locations, but because they're afraid these big hotels won't be able to find employees to help their catering, their food and beverage, their housekeeping. So they're scaling down a little bit, or they're not doing the project based on not being able to find employees.
Yep.
I mean,
you
see that?
Yeah, and I think that, the way I see it is technology helps our employee lives better, right? So anything we do with technology is to make it our jobs easier. They take the repetitive tasks. They take the automation part of it. And also they help us reduce the errors. So if you think about, for example, particularly on the data side, where you have that in the past, you would have had a director of revenue typing numbers in, a director of sales putting a group-based report together, sales manager putting sales manager productivity or activities together. They're typing all that information in, which is bound to have some errors. So technology helps us on that in that sense, but also the connectivity is extremely important. Before you used to have, and I was way back when I used to have hair, I used to actually be able to have it. There was a telephone system, right? And you would make a phone call. You would have this little strip that you would actually go and you would have to enter in how much it cost, where it went, all that kind of fun stuff. You no longer have that, right? So all those automated tasks, they're now connected. Right. So it is no different than, for example, when you take a look at the ATM machine and the bank teller, right? The bank teller used to do all the transactions, right? The ATM machine automated everything that is just a predictable outcome. Right. I need to put a code, I need money out, and that's it. So your bank teller is no different now than your guest service agent, which is they're focusing now on a guest that is going to have a unique problem. You're going to have a more complex problem. You're going to have the family, a guest that needs to have a unique accommodation and things like that. And that is where I do believe that our guest service agents of the future are going to be a lot more geared towards the guest satisfaction, the guest service side, because again, they're going to be dealing with a more complex transaction in general than they have done in the past.
And I think they're going to be, for lack of a better term, at a higher level skill of interaction and being paid better, because you're going to have less people, but they have to be more skilled. They have to almost all be concierges, the ability to react like a concierge. But let's go back to the training part.
Well, before you say that one thing, I think what we're really talking about, Raul, is a phrase that we say here on the show regularly: turning the transactional into the experiential with your team. Anthony, please continue.
So getting to that point and backing up just a little bit is that what I'm seeing, yesterday in the class, they asked me, what is the biggest problem in our industry? And we all talk about it, but I don't know how many companies are really doing anything about it. The training programs in most of these big companies are gone. And not because they want them to be gone, not because maybe they don't want to put the funding in it, because they don't have the employees to train. And that is right now where if big companies aren't making real strategic decisions and putting their money in their mouth and say, listen, We may not have the staff, but we have to hire a training company. We have to really, really train these employees. Because one of the things I'm hearing from a lot of employees is I wasn't trained. I had somebody leave the industry because they weren't trained. They loved the industry. They're like, I was way in over my head, and I'm a smart person, but like everything was on video, and I was bored, and I was gone, and nobody was paying attention to me. So and there was somebody, a CEO of a major management company, that said on this podcast, what training? We don't do training right now. And so is that coming back, in a real way with a real focus?
Absolutely. And I would tell you different things, right? So we currently actually have a position open for training and development manager. Not just that, but we actually have a number of third-party companies that actually are providing training for our sales associates. So to give you an idea, we doubled our sales force between January 1st, 2021 and January 1st, 2022. Vast majority of those sales associates actually had not worked in the company before. Right. So now you need to train him in a new process. Mm-hmm. I'll give you food and beverage. Food and beverage actually is the most interesting one because this is where we have hired the majority of our associates. We work with a company that are producing now videos in a TikTok-like format for those, a bartender. This is a 30-second, 60-second video on how to make a martini or whatever the case it is. So we have to find new ways of doing that. We, for example,
I want to have him on the show.
Yes, Patrick Henry. So Patrick Henry is actually one of our partners in there. But for example, on the commercial side, we have training every single week, and it's a commercial training. So whether that would be on Expedia travel ads, whether that would be on pricing and positioning, on group rates. But every week we have a training that is open to the entire field for them.
I'm sorry, I'm still caught up here that you're working with Patrick Henry. How did you get a founding father to work with you? That's pretty impressive.
Brian, you have kind of like reduced the level of comedy and of those moments, and I appreciate that.
Dude, I'm all about dad jokes these days. What can I tell? Hey, give me comedy or give me death.
To talk about dad jokes, last night I went out. My twins were 23 today. Actually, we're out for dinner, and it was just a family, right? The five of us, and we're sitting there, and every single time they said, every time I said something, they all just looked at me like, "Can you just sit over there and keep your dad jokes to yourself?"
Yeah.
And I did. It's so funny talking about TikTok. I walked into the restaurant and my daughter freaked out. There was this TikTok couple that has like 150,000 followers that she follows because she has a food blog, my daughter. And she walked in. She goes, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, they're there." I said, "Go over and say hello to them." I went to the men's room and they're sitting with somebody that noticed me. Anyway, I brought the TikTok people over to my daughter, and she thought I was going to die. And she's like, "Can you just sit over there and not move?" It's like, so we're at the stage where no matter how old your kids are, you're always going to tell bad dad jokes and you're always going to do the wrong thing. So it doesn't.
That's what my kids tell me. I'm a very, very bad comedian. So,
well, hopefully somebody else has a sense of humor. Let's extend the conversation and bring in Zach Cunningham, VP Analytics and Business Intelligence with Remington Hotels. Zach, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me today, guys. I'm super excited to be here. Obviously, technology is near and dear to my heart. So,
yes,
super happy to be invited on and join Raul and talk to you guys a little bit about this.
I'm sure with somebody that has a hearing impairment, technology is super important for you. So that makes sense. Anthony, you were going to say something?
What I was going to say is when you talk about, if you look at baseball, right? And I'm sure, Zach, you're very familiar with what happened in baseball in the last 10, 15 years, right? They went from, he throws a splitter, he runs fast, he hits to left field, to where the center fielder is now wearing a wristband that says where that hitter hits the ball, what kind of ball he hits, and what you can expect. So analytics have taken over our world. And once again, the hotel industry has been slow to adapt it, but now that we're adapting it, it's really taken over our world. And I think the casinos in Vegas adapted it early on, but most hotels are just now adapting to it.
I would say, Zach, I'll have you speak in 1 second, but I think what you're referring to, Anthony, is Gary Loveman, when he was CEO of Caesars, created that total rewards program in a way that really understood the customer's wants and needs and value. And for the first time in our industry, we're able to create offers that were individualized to get people to come and pull those one-armed bandits.
I wasn't referencing that because you're a historian of hospitality industry. I thought I was until I met you, so I didn't even realize that. But so Zach, so go ahead. So,
all right, Zach, what do you do as VP of Analytics and Business Intelligence?
So I'm actually going to go back in time and answer that question on you. So if we actually go back 9 years ago, which is when I started for Remington back in 2013, I remember I was brought in as an analyst and we were doing reporting. And our reporting at that time consisted of entering in hard-coded numbers into an Excel spreadsheet. So that's I'm sure you guys remember those days. That's where it started. And we gradually moved on to pivot tables, which was really exciting at the time. And then, over time, we've advanced completely into, the world of analytics and business intelligence. So a lot of what we do these days is on one side, we focus a lot on the business intelligence piece, which is data acquisition, data formatting, transformation, and actually using that data to provide insights all the way from C-level all the way to our GMs and DOS. So it's going from a 50-page P&L PDF to a business intelligence tool that pinpoints exactly where your expenses may be over budget. It's a huge transition. When we do that across commercial strategy, we do that across operations, and then using that to do predictive analytics, right? Understand, okay, before my guest has a problem, how can I address those problems? So in our world, and it's kind of like Anthony said, where the hospitality industry has been a little slow to adapt over time to technology, right? We're making progress on that. And that's one of our big focuses at Remington is how do we use technology, how do we use data to actually make an impact, not just on a financial statement, but also on our guest lives, right? We want to enhance the customer experience, and we can definitely use data to identify exactly what the customer wants, and we can implement those processes.
It seems, remember when Six Sigma black belts were everywhere? Do you guys know what Six Sigma black belts are? You guys
yeah.
So
I was actually a green belt, certified green belt.
So whatever happened to them?
Wait, wasn't that where the Chesapeake office was located, in Greenbelt? Sorry.
There's another bad belt. So what happened to all those Six Sigma black belts?
Good question. I think a lot of them were absorbed into the operations side. Some of them went to technology. Some of them went to analytics. But I mean, normally that had a play into, product and process enhancement.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, as an asset manager and that worked with Six Sigma, I wanted to. I didn't want him to deal with me anymore for a while, because as you're working, and analytics are great. I'm all about analytics. I'm all about data, and Glenn knows that. I am a data-driven human.
Big time.
I'm that's all I think about, and I never made a decision in my life. I say it all the time. I make the data makes the decision. So I'm all in. I'd be a great Six Sigma. But this individual, didn't think I had anything else to do in my life, but to analyze why a penny goes to tails 51% of the time as opposed to 49% of the time. Things like that. And to the point where I literally threw him out of my office and probably wasn't very nice to him. But anyway, so analytics, but now when you get to analytics, you get the data. You give that to me and I just eat it all up. Do you have challenges, Zach, with people actually reading the data you give them?
Absolutely. So one of the things when we first started the program about 4 years ago, the ironic thing is that building out the program wasn't the hard part. The hard part was trends management, right? Getting people, especially very successful people who are used to doing things a certain way, to look at things in a new way that would allow them to be even more successful. So trends management, I joke all the time about this. I talk to all these different companies about how, if they're looking to build out their BI program, what are the challenges that they're going to face? It takes time and effort to build out your platform, but the biggest challenge is always going to be trends management. And I mean that in a very good way, right? But that means that you have to have communication. Whoever your customer is, whether it's a C-level, whether it's a GM, you have to have communication, and you have to have that bilateral communication, which is something we talk about all the time. For example, my team can build out a phenomenal report, or a phenomenal piece of analysis, but if it's targeted to GMs and we don't get any GM feedback, that can never become a great piece of analysis, right?
Right.
So that's where that communication comes into play. And you have to have that feedback going back and forth so you can really build out a really smart, intelligent program.
Absolutely. And what I found is make sure you're feeding that information when the people are ready to consume it.
Yeah.
And so, too many times there's these meetings and analytics and data and questions when people aren't ready to consume it because they're running a hotel and the toilet bowl in 2808 just flooded and the guy below him just booked a wedding for $2 million. So I got problems. I don't really want to talk about analytics in the middle of my day. So it's just really, I love it, but it's also there's a challenge to really get people that are hospitality people who are people and not numbers people to I'm both, and to really appreciate how numbers save your life because especially with less people, those numbers are going to really understand where you have to put your assets.
Right. So Zach, what other numbers telling you today about the state of hospitality? And Raul, what does that mean to you practically? So Zach?
I'll jump in with that. So I actually have a background in economics, so I love talking about that kind of stuff. So one of the things that we're seeing today, you hear a lot of stuff about inflation and recession, right? And a lot of stuff going on about that. But one of the things that consumers are telling us is despite all of that, they still want to travel, right? They still want to get out there. They still want to do things. They still want to travel. So one of the things that I keep mentioning is we may see a slight downturn, right? As we're going into, Q3, Q4, we may see a slight downturn in demand, but consumers still want to come to your property. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Don't get caught up in the whole I'm scared about the recession. I'm scared about potential inflation.
People are starting to feel very end of days, Zach. It's good to hear you say something contrary to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely something we're seeing. Obviously, when we start looking at labor, the labor market's very tight. So as managers, we have to be very well aware of that and take actions to make sure that people are engaged and want to be with us. So those are all economic indicators that we're seeing. And that's really comes down to data and analytics. What do those indicators tell us? And then what does the data tell us to what actions do we need to take from that? So it's really, really fun stuff to see going on right now. But I do want to say exactly what you said, Glenn. It's definitely not the end of times. We definitely have a very bright future ahead of us. It might take a little longer than we hoped, maybe a quarter ago to recover to 2019, but it's definitely coming.
Excellent.
And I think the end of the day is just people who just live in their little vacuum. And, I just had a conversation with my doctor yesterday. We're both completely seeing the world differently right now. And after the conversation, we both kind of agreed to agree. We actually didn't disagree. We actually were on the same, we felt good because we had a conversation. It wasn't over texting. It wasn't over Zoom. It was just a conversation. And we at first I was like, I may have to change doctors. This guy's crazy. And by the end of it, it was like, we're on the same page. So communicate to. I'm glad you said that, Zach, because you're right. I think what I see, even when we travel, Glenn travels, I travel, people are excited. I mean, people only get really, really depressed in the world when they're behind their computer. But when they're out in the world, you don't sense that.
Well, I also get a little depressed when it's the 14th flight in a row where the gate is not available when my plane lands. But other than that.
Well, you know what? Thank God that we have airplanes to take you to your gate, okay?
Exactly. And the fact that, I could go to California and be there later today is the most incredible thing. Yeah. So, Raul, I got to get you back in on this conversation. How are you thinking about the fall? How are you preparing all of the hotels and the team members within those hotels to have a successful season?
Great. And going back to, I guess, the original question about data, I think one of the things that happened when Zach started building his team was that we wanted to simply be able to record information. What was our P&L like? What was our cost per occupied room was, and things like that. Where we have made a significant enhancements has been in the trending piece of it. Mm-hmm. So I need to be able to have actionable data. So to your point, for example, Zach produces data. His team now is getting into those trending predictive analytics. Last night, perfect example, one of his teams put a report together that actually shows that the largest decline of lead time is actually under 3 days.
Right.
So the vast majority in the middle of the pandemic, 60% of your reservation would have come in inside of 3 days because you didn't know if you could travel. Well, now that inside of 3 days is shrinking quite a bit. And that's telling us basically that business travel is coming back, that people are feeling a lot more comfortable about traveling, and that people are actually making decisions further ahead. That's extremely important for us. So weekends, we have seen let's call it deceleration of growth, because weekends were just on fire. They're kind of normalizing now. What's coming back is actually midweek. We're very excited about corporate business. And even, for example, whether it's not reported as, the major corporate accounts, beat IBM and things like that, but midweek occupancy is growing every single month. And we are very excited for the fall because, yes, while we might see let's call it a deceleration, I think we will still have growth on a year-over-year basis all the way into next year.
When you say growing, is it rapid growth, trickling growth? What kind of growth are you seeing?
We are seeing probably anywhere between 2 to 5% occupancy growth.
Wow.
On a month-over-month basis,
while you're still maintaining those rates, Anthony.
Well, the rate, what I see in my business, that I have a revenue management business, is that occupancy is there, but rates starting to soften a little bit. Are you starting to see that?
Yeah, weekends particularly. Again, if you look at weekends and weekday, the weekend rates were actually obviously extremely high, particularly on the leisure destinations. I think what you're having is that there's a difference right now that the weekend rates, which are usually not the case, are significantly higher than midweek. So that is kind of coming down where you're having more midweek occupancy, you're having, coming down, I guess, average rates when they used to be. But we are still on historic highs on weekend average rates. We are still double-digit growth on average rate to 2019 levels in a majority of our hotels.
Right. Fascinating. That's really interesting. So, before we start to head to wrapping up today, Zach, what kind of advice would you give hoteliers out there when it comes to figuring out their tech stack? What should they be thinking about first, and what can they maybe put off a little while?
Absolutely. So at first, I think the first thing you should do is identify what challenges are you having, right? Because that's going to help you pinpoint exactly what are the first things that I should start doing, what are the first pieces of software I should start buying to help tackle these problems. The second thing is figure out how do I get all of my data in one place, right? So that's going to be a big thing, being able to get all of your data in one place and reporting on that. And the reason why that's important is the correlations, being able to see, okay, how does preventative maintenance issues affect guest service? Are there specific issues that affect guest service more than others? That's really what's going to start going from, I'm just reporting my numbers, I'm just seeing the information, I may be 30 days late, to actually being 30 days early, right? So first off, identifying the issues, identifying the items that are going to help you solve those issues, and then once you have those items in place, bring them all together.
Yeah. And I think also the people understand when they get the data, if they understand the why, right? People are not really good at explaining the why. People are just like, here's data, here's the direction, but why? Like once I started learning what these reports do for me and why they're important, then I'm all in, then I'm looking for them. So that's a real important piece as well.
And Raul, what about you? What about some good advice for getting through the fall when it comes to taking a good 360 look at the entire business?
Yeah, I think connectivity is the most important part for us. The other thing, for example, is if you think about PMS systems and all those, they're going to have what we call canned reports, right? The reports are there and they are, again, what the company decided those reports to be. One of the things you get with a customized business intelligence application like we do is that we let the end user decide how they want to be able to see the data. In most cases, you're going to have that in the past that you would have actually given a whole report, a packet printed out to your CEO and say, here's the month-end packet. What we have done is I've put every single one of the reports with a significant amount of customization that you can say, I want to be able to see all of my hotels, all of my Marriott hotels on the West Coast, but I only want to do select service and I want to remove the other 3 that are under renovation. That allows you a significant acceleration of getting to what the major issues are. And that is what I call analytics efficiency. So to me, we no longer have time to actually browse through that data. So what we do is we have Zach's team store the data, organize it, and put it in a way that a general manager can open the window, see his dashboard, and be able to see all the things that he needs to worry about. So we need to be able to figure it out from problem to what do I need to do in the fastest amount of time possible. Whatever technology allows us those points to be shorter, that is the technology that is the most important for us.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. Anthony?
The number one report I'd want is I want to know how many resumes you had to look at to get a qualified person. And then once you got the qualified person off from the job, how many of them didn't show up? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
All right.
I got one, that one.
I got one more question. I'm going to start with, I'm going to ask you, Anthony, and then we'll see what the other guys think.
Oh, ask Anthony.
Yeah. Where does analytics end and instinct begin?
That's an incredibly good question. For me, I'll just talk for me. The analytics of the concrete, right? It's like you have to have concrete to build a building. If the concrete is soft, all your decisions above the concrete fall into the concrete and you lose everything. So the concrete is my basis for everything. And then based on that solid concrete, I'm allowed to be creative and a thinker and an entrepreneur. But if I don't have my solid basis, everything else doesn't matter.
Right. Gentlemen, how do you see it? Zach?
I think that was a phenomenal example, right? So I think the analytics, the data is your foundation, and that's going to give you the tools you need to then apply that instinct, right? So especially, we've been around for a while, we've been in the industry for a while, so understanding that data, actually seeing that data, will allow you to make an instinctual decision in a much better manner. Right?
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example that comes up a lot in hotels when they're turning around hotels. We only have a par and a half of linen, and I have to go to the owner for $150,000, right? It just happened to a friend of mine who's running a 5-star hotel, and $150,000 worth of linen. Now, the analytics say, well, we can't afford that based on this, that, and the other thing. And I just go, well, that's the concrete. I understand that. But I also understand what that does to my service scores. I understand what does to my TripAdvisor scores. And that decision is not being made by a data-driven number, period, end of story. We're getting that $150,000. We're getting that linen. And if you want to fire me, fire me. Okay, but that's going to happen. Okay, now, all of a sudden, we have this cocktail program that's driving our alcohol cost up, and it's not really driving our guest scores anywhere. Yeah, it's nice to have, and I see that's going up 2%. I take that number, I go to the food and beverage director and said, change that program. It's costing us too much beer. Get more money, get more beer, and less cocktails because it's not working. So that's how day-to-day operations. You have to be able to be, you have to be able to be tough because you have to be able to stand up when the numbers support a decision that the owner wants, and you're like, you don't understand. I know that 150 may hurt you, but in the long run, it's going to kill you if you don't spend it.
Yeah, absolutely. Raul, any final thoughts, sir?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point because one of the things that we're getting actually from a lot of the owners is they want more data, they want more granular data, and they want it more frequently. So if you think about it, right, a CEO is probably not going to go into a business analysis tool, but your asset manager will, your asset management analyst will. And one of the things that we have done is we say, you know what, we're going to have 100% transparency with our numbers. We have a platform, and that platform, we have every report that's available to every one of our hotels is available to every one of our owners. Right. So if you have a hotel and you want to analyze your hotel, we will provide that data to you in your hands because they're asking for it. And that actually, believe it or not, is making a huge difference, particularly with our institutional investors. They want to know how much we picked up last night. They want to know how much was VT, what's the acceleration on group bookings and things like that. We're putting all that information in front of them because if not, if we actually say, let me get back to you a week from now and let me gather that information for you, the fact that we're telling them we're gathering that information, it in their minds is, well, you may be manipulating and cherry picking what you want. We simply have.
Or you don't know your business. Or you don't. If you said I'm gathering that data, I said you don't know your business. Like
Exactly.
immediately, I'm like, I don't want you running my hotel because you don't know your business. If you
Absolutely.
have to gather that data that I need, then you're not paying attention. So you're 100% right. But the number one question, Glenn, that an owner asks is, do you know what it is? And I'll say new owners.
Yeah.
Because old owners, we basically start to kind of wear them down to stop asking that question. Why do I have to use third parties? That's the number one question every owner wants to know.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I could see.
The less you have to use.
Yeah, Zach, you're smiling a lot. Would you like to comment on that, or just not?
I think all the points that we made were awesome, right? So I think I've had conversations with pretty much every single owner we have, and one of the things they mentioned, just like you guys are mentioning here, is this is what I want to see, and I don't just want to see it. I want to understand why. I want to understand why my linen per occupied room is higher than it was in 2019, and that's what we can help them do, and we can help them do it in real time. And that's one of the reasons why our platform has been so successful is we go out and we get data multiple times a day. Anthony, you love this. We go out and get data 8 times a day. We refresh things 8 times a day. You're essentially looking at live data. And it just enables us to make better decisions as operators, better decisions as owners, right?
And you know, when you have numbers, if an owner's questioning you, and you have, I've been in these meetings too many times, where you have the numbers and the owner's still asking the same question that the numbers answer. You have to stop talking. You have to stop talking and say, I understand. Because they're asking a question that's been answered, but they don't like the answer. But the numbers answer the question. You didn't answer the question. That's the answer. And how many times they're shaking their head because, like,
too funny. Gentlemen, we have to wrap up the show today. Thank you so much for being here. Raul, I'll give you the final word and a good plug for Remington. Go for it.
Very good. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I think that, we're very excited for the fact that obviously we completed, we're actually finishing the completion of the Chesapeake integration. We have come a very, very long way. We have, again, almost 50% of our hotels are actually third party, to your point, Anthony. And I think that, again, it's one of those things of that through Sloan, he has allowed us to basically unlock the value that Remington has had for the past 50 years and say, you know what, now this platform is available to other owners and investors. And we would love to hear from you if you have a hotel that you would love for us to help improve and realize the asset potential.
Beautiful. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. We really appreciate you guys. We'll see you. We'll see you soon. Take care. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, that was really interesting. It's really good to see what these guys are up to, and I can't wait to be at the Showboat this weekend and see how they're continuing to improve and reinvent the Showboat in Atlanta.
The concert you're going to this weekend, have you ever seen that band before?
Fish, I think that's with a PH, right? Hold on, let me see. Yeah, I think I'm up around 200 shows, so maybe.
So yesterday, I was blessed enough to be asked to come over to the Ritz-Carlton Nomad.
Yeah.
I haven't posted yet about it, but Daisy, the owner, who we had on last week, was kind enough to show me around and just spent as much time as I needed, brought me through the building, and let me just show you. I'm not allowed to show you any construction of the rooftop because it's under construction, but I can show you a picture of me standing on the rooftop.
All right.
That will show you that these are some of the best views you'll ever see.
Yep, let's
see.
And as
I'm saying that, I realized I didn't download the picture that Daisy took of me, so let me just find it.
All right, you got to stall for time a little bit better than that. You can't tell the people that you can't find.
There you go. Okay, so this is the view.
Yep.
Unobstructed view of when you have a cocktail you'll be seeing at the Ritz-Carlton Nomad. What other rooftop has that squared up view like that?
Wow. That's pretty awesome, man. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I got to tell you something. Some of the furniture and the pieces, what it really, like, again, being a geek, hotel geek, and it's the only thing I'm probably geek out about, is the furniture, the colors, the restaurant. You turn the corner and, like, I asked her, it's so funny because I'm going down the lobby and I go, why'd you pick this carpet with this color? And she said, you'll understand in a second. And she opens up the door and it's exactly the opposite of the hallway. And so what their intention was was just kind of like beautiful, elegant, but we're not giving away what you're going to see in the rooms.
Right.
And then
Sure.
all of a sudden, it's almost like you're going through almost like a magic curtain, and you open it up, and you're like, whoa! And then you have these floor to ceiling windows, and just an extraordinary hotel. And I spoke to her husband, I spoke to her, and just brilliant people, and they really care about their staff. And I, secretly asked each staff member, which I knew 90% of them because I've worked with them. And I said, so how are these people? How do you? And they all said best owners I've ever worked with.
That's awesome.
It's only been 6 weeks.
Yeah. I can't wait to get over there and actually see the place. We're going to be doing a special show from there as soon as our schedules allow it. And while you're waiting for that particular show, why not download our podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, wherever you get your shows? Well, gosh darn it, we are there. And if you're listening to us right now, check us out video-wise on YouTube, our respective LinkedIn pages, Facebook pages, et cetera, et cetera. He's at Anthony Hotels. I'm at Traveling Glenn. Let's get out of here, Anthony.
I remember giving you an order, a direct order, to not say "dosh darn it" more than once a year.
Oh. Now I don't know what to say. I was gonna say it again. All right.
You said it last month. You can't say
I'm gonna go work on that. And while I'm working on that, I hope you guys do listen to us on audio. Remember, guys, you've got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
see y'all later.
And I've never